Hi, I'm Stacey Blakeslee. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at the residents of Pearl Street. I'm here today with our Culinary Director, Seth Gooby. And recently, Seth and I have been going out to different Council on Agings in different places and offering healthy cooking for one, and some options for people, because one of the things that I hear all the time is how difficult it is to prepare meals if you're alone, or even how difficult it is if it's you and your husband at home. So I thought I'd have you out, Seth, today so we can talk a little bit further about some of that. And I know you were going to talk a little bit about some of the health benefits for seniors as well, but I thought maybe we could start there.
Sure. Yeah, we've been very successful with our food demonstrations with those cooking for one. It's been really fun for me to meet some of the people in the neighborhood, and I love being a part of this community. So some of the things we've done is we've done some spring to summer pasta salads. One of the more popular ones that we did was our Pearl's Power granola. Using things like flaxseed, chia seed, granola, fresh fruits, things like that that are easy to find in the grocery store, in your local markets, farmers markets, and just showing you different ways that you can kind of amp up your breakfast by using things like the flax, the chia, the hemp seeds that have a lot more benefits to your diet than your normal, grocery store boxed cereal or things like that. There's so many ways that you can add nutrients to your breakfast by using those kind of ingredients that help our elderly population, focusing on heart health care, focusing on brain health. So I was just showing some simple ingredients that you can use to make that happen.
Well, I think, you just touched on a couple points, and one of that is you talking about you can find these things in your grocery store.
Right.
I think that's one of the bigger problems that I hear is that they don't know where to find these things. And you touched on the farmer's market too, which is great, but I think people don't always have the information on that, and they don't know how to use these products, the chia seeds and these things. So maybe if you could just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Sure. Well, if you go to any local market, Market Basket, Stop and Shop, any of those, you can always find in the cereal aisle or in the baking goods aisle, you could find chia seeds, which are these black little seeds, and they're super high in fiber, great for let's see, there's great for, did I say fiber already? Yeah, great for, they talked about helping fight cancer, high in antioxidants, things like that. And they help with your digestive system as well. And I know sometimes with the elderly, that can be a problem. So we want to make sure that we're giving people good information and good food. So I think opening up people's eyes to the different ingredients and different ideas really does help someone, when you're cooking alone or cooking by yourself or cooking for one person. It gives you more options than just doing the normal, we're going to do bacon and eggs today. And there's so many things that make people overwhelmed, especially as you get, if for our seniors in the that are maybe alone, it is overwhelming to just look at the grocery store and say, what is all these new items? What are all these new items? And this is a way for me to kind of break that down a little bit and show people what they can use. So making that granola was a great way to introduce some of these items to the community in a way that maybe kind of takes the fear out of it.
And how do you incorporate this into the life and the lifestyle really at the residents of Pearl Street?
Great question. What we do is, we work with the Harvard Medical Group. We also work with a nutritionist, and when I create the menus, we want to focus on brain health, we want to focus on heart health, we want to focus on digestive health, so things that we want to use for the seniors would be things that are high in antioxidants, high in omega-3s. So I know those are some big words and crazy things but it really, when you start looking those things up and you do some research, there's ways with the Harvard Medical School that we're trying to cut down on the medication and actually be proactive with the way you eat. So when we look at our menu, we take that all into the full scope, and we say, how can we create this menu so it's beneficial for our residents, and we can do things that are fun, putting new twists on recipe items that might be a little healthier than you would have at your home, but also using some of those traditional, meatloaf or spaghetti and meat sauce, but making them in a little different way, using fresh ingredients, using healthy items, maybe using a leaner protein, things like that can make a big difference in our residents' lives.
Now, I know for myself, cooking at home, I have 2 elderly parents who live in an in-law in my house. And when I do these things, this is so overwhelming for them.
Right.
If I'm baking, a lot of times I'm not using oils. I might be using applesauce or using
Right.
yogurt in it. And it still tastes great, but it's such a difference.
Right.
So I know that can be overwhelming, and I know it's such a different way to think. You don't use the fats, and you don't use
Right.
the butters, and you don't use the oils. So it's really a matter of changing the thinking too.
I agree. Yeah.
And I've seen in our dining room alone, the residents have been really receptive to that.
Yeah, and I think if you think of it in a simpler way, you don't have to think of the science. You don't have to think about all this, the big words. If you think about our bodies as these machines that need to work better, and we want to make them work more efficiently in a longer period of time, just like you would any machine, you got to put the right parts together. You got to put the right ingredients into the machine. So when we break down and think about all these, if it's better food, gives you a better life. The old adage is you are what you eat, and there really is a lot of truth to that. If you're only going to eat donuts and starchy foods all day long, that's basically what's going to happen inside your body. So, I'm not a nutritionist, but I've seen it happen with our residents, and I've seen people take different turns just by eating better. Saying no to maybe the sweets all the time, or the heavy starch, and maybe trying some fruit instead, or using, instead of having an iceberg and romaine salad, having some kale and some spinach. There's things that can change, and the flavor really isn't that. You get used to different flavors, and I think that we have a lot of residents that are trying new things, and they're really excited. I mean, we did a quesadilla last night using some grilled chicken, and to see people just trying these quesadillas that would never try something like that before is really inspiring, and it's great to see people trying new things. We're encouraging a different palate.
Now, I know juicing is a big topic, and I know you've introduced smoothies and
Right.
how to get in your fruits and your vegetables.
Right.
So how would you go about doing something like that?
Right. We do smoothie bars at the Residence of Pearl, which is a great hit. We have residents come around, and we choose different smoothies that we're going to try. We did a mango spinach smoothie, so it's a great way to get your iron in there. It's a great way to get, if you need a quick blast in the morning of a nutrient boost. Again, we go back to the chia or the hemp, and we can add those right into the mixer. So we do our fresh fruit, we do our spinach, we do our chia or our flax meal, and what that does is that adds some extra nutrients, adds some extra fiber, and you get a breakfast worth of vegetables and nutrition in a 15-minute process. So a lot of times that's what we need those extra nutrition, and we need that extra nutrition to kind of get us through the day. And so that's been really fun to do those smoothie bars, and it's also another way to introduce a kind of a more I guess recent style of food that maybe they didn't have when they were growing up. So this is I know that it's a hit not only with the residents but also with the staff, so it's been good.
And I know, working with Harvard and Brigham Women's, we've talked a lot about the Mediterranean diet and how to incorporate that into your life, and how that research has shown that it really does decrease the risk of a memory impairment. It helps with your cholesterol, it helps with heart disease. How are we incorporating that, and how are you finding the residents responding to that?
Well, we want to make sure that there's a heart-healthy choice on our menu every day, whether it be grilled salmon with avocado salsa or with a baked herb chicken. But we will always have a very vegetable-forward diet. So we have vegetable options always. We have a green salad that's always available. We have, whether it have spinach or kale in it. We're using soups that maybe have a little less cream in them. We're using the fresh salmon. So it's a fattier fish that has the omega-3s in there that does help with brain health. We're putting new twists on recipes that can affect make a big difference in the health of the meal. So like, again, we work closely with the nutritionist, we work with the medical school, and it makes a big difference. So vegetable forward, using oils such as canola or olive oil instead of the heavy fat frying oils. We don't have a deep fryer, so we keep that out. And using fresh fish, local vegetables as we can. When the market comes around, I can't wait to get those tomatoes in from around here, so that's exciting. And just being conscious of what we're serving our residents. We don't want it to be that once you get to a certain age, all health care goes out the window. It's not just about pills. It's not just about. We want to make sure that we're doing things to enhance someone's life instead of it just being, this is how we can get through our old age. There's people that are, still dancing and singing and running around, and it's great. And I do believe that diet has a huge part of that.
And how are you finding the response from the residents and the families? Because the families are very involved, that we see, and they have a lot of opinions on that. So how are you feeling?
It's been great. And as the years progress, I've been with senior living for about 11 years. I'm seeing people ask for more of this kind of diet, more greens, more fresh vegetables, leaner meats. Let's try turkey instead of ground beef. And it's nice to see that people are making those choices. People don't. We have a 103-year-old that looks like she could be 80. It's amazing to see the difference that people have, like the difference that I'm seeing with the residents with that 11 years. Families are happy. We do a snack at 3 o'clock every day, and instead of putting just brownies and cookies out, we're doing vegetable platters, we're doing smoothies, and the families are excited, the residents are excited, just to try something new. It might take a little convincing at first, right. But it works, and it's just we need to understand that the seniors do have choice still. They don't want to take 12 pills before 10 o'clock in the morning, and there's ways we can help kind of deplete the amount of pills you have in your medicine cabinet. So
I think one of the things that you mentioned that makes me think back to the grocery store and to the farmer's market is the cost of some of the things. Mm-hmm. And I know when you and I have gone out to the different council on agings and they say, but I'm cooking for this, but can I freeze this?
Right.
I think it's the not knowing of how to do that and what can be prepared, because they are different ingredients than we might be used to. Mm-hmm. So the cost is always an issue that we face, and also just how do you do that?
Right. I call it food efficiency. I'm a huge proponent of using all of the food. I think we've kind of grown up in a, not so much their generation, but our generation was kind of this throwaway culture that everything was just, you could have it once, you don't need leftovers, you get rid of it. And now I think we're getting back to, let's see how we can make this food last. So when I do my demonstrations, I talk about how you can use the granola not just for cereal, but you can add it to, if you're making a baked goods, or you can add it to your muffins, or if you want to make a crisp, you can throw it on top of your crisp. So I try to go into those things while I'm demonstrating, and that does seem to really strike a chord with a lot of the residents, with people I'm talking to, because that is a concern. They want to know, well, if I'm going to have all this food, what am I going to do with it? And that's also part of that. We keep talking about being overwhelmed, and it is a concern when people are of that age and they're cooking. That is a scary thing. So I think that when we break that down and we say, this is how you can use the food, this is what you can do with it, this is how it lasts, and I go over costs, and I talk about how much things usually tend to be priced at. It's no secret that healthier food tends to be a little more expensive. But as more people are buying it and using it, costs seem to be going down a little bit. But the benefits you get from eating the better food can sometimes outweigh that price, if you look at it in a different way. And I think when you start breaking that down and you realize what you don't need as much of this, or you only need this, and I think when we describe that, it helps the residents kind of not feel as overwhelmed. But yeah, it's something that I do discuss with all of the demonstrations, and it seems to go pretty well.
And I know getting the calls from seniors themselves or from their families, one of the main concerns is the meals and how difficult it is to prepare the meals and how difficult it is to get the meals. And one of the things that I see oftentimes is if I go to do a home visit or if I have somebody come in, they're eating such high in salt food.
Right.
So a lot of prepared food, a lot of prepackaged food, which is in some ways so much easier, but in other ways it is affecting their blood pressure, it is affecting their sodium intake. We have people going back and forth to the hospital, whether it be for congestive heart failure or not. So that's a huge concern in the community that I come across with the families.
Right.
And when we have a resident move in, how do you see that develops?
Well, I meet with each of the residents when they first move in. It's super important that I have a good relationship with each of the residents. Not only because I want to get to know them, but just because I'm going to be preparing their meals 365 days a year, pretty much, unless they go out for a holiday or maybe they're out for a vacation or something like that. So I'm basically going to be their personal chef along with my cooks. So I need to build that relationship right away and know that they can trust that I'm going to do my best to make sure that they're eating well. I give them the choices that they want, and I'm listening to what their needs are. So when we talk about, when a resident comes in and says that they have a no added salt diet, I take that very seriously, and I want to show them this is what we have on our menu that you can look at, and you can, their options are available. We don't add any salt to our soups. We make sure that if they want to add salt, it's on the table for them, but we don't add any salt to our foods. We use low sodium ham and turkey for all our deli meats. And we'd use fresh, as much as possible, we use fresh fish, fresh beef, fresh chicken, not any frozen prepared foods. And that does cut down a huge amount on the sodium. So when we start just that as the ground floor, it gives the residents just a better peace of mind that they know that we're looking out for their best interest. We work, like I said, closely with a nutritionist who goes over all the residents' diets, and we have to make sure that we're following the right the right diets for them. Also with the no concentrated sweet diet, we want to make sure that we have options for the residents that love the desserts. And that's one thing I can tell you as a director for 11 years with the elderly, I realized that that's something that never goes away, people's love of desserts. So you can be, one of the funniest things is when you say, oh no, I can't eat any more food, but I'll take a giant piece of cake. So we have to, encourage the residents to, eat better at times, but it is choice. They have the residents still have choice of what they want, but we know what's recommended by their doctors. So we have to encourage the resident and say, we also have this sugar-free option if you want. We also have this low-salt option if you want. And that tends to, now, since they have my trust, they know that I'm going to be, looking out for their best interest.
Well, I think you hit on such an important point of choice.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times people don't feel that they have a choice, or they don't have a variety of choice. It's the same. I open the can of soup every day, or
Right.
I put together a quick sandwich. And I think that choice and variety makes a huge difference for people, and seeing a colorful plate.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one of the misconceptions of when a resident moves into a community like ours. People sometimes think, oh, you're just going to be, locked into this building. You won't be able to choose anything you want. You're not going to do any activities. You're just going to stay in your room and watch Murder, She Wrote all day. And that's not what happens. We have a ton of activities. We have a menu that offers at least 30 options each day. So you're basically going to a fine dining restaurant every day. And that's, it's exciting for us as chefs because we get to be creative all the time. We get to make a chef special every day. We get to listen to the residents. We know who's coming to dinner, so we can say, oh, I know Millie is going to enjoy this, so let's try putting this on the menu. It's super fun. So once the residents understand that, it opens up this whole new world. And then they, like, going back to that trust thing, they might try the kale salad, or they might try the spinach mango chia smoothie. So there's things that we do that gives them choice, but also gives them this whole new way of eating. And I encourage anybody to come down to our community and try our food, and I promise you'll feel like you're at one of the restaurants in town.
That's great.
So, yeah.
And you said you've been working with the senior population for 11 years. So what
Yeah.
have you learned in that time as far as cooking and interacting with the seniors?
A lot of things. A lot of great stories. Everybody loves dessert. There's always room for dessert, and I think another one is that everybody has a recipe for their own marinara. So that's a big one. So we try to cater to each of the residents' needs. It's a challenge, definitely, to make sure that we get everybody's favorite meal on. But just learning from each resident. In fact, I just had Enrique's famous meatballs yesterday, which are great. So we do have residents that are still cooking in our community, giving cooking demonstrations. I get up and I get to take a little break, and I get to enjoy some of their food as well. But I encourage the residents to bring their recipes down, and we can try it, whether I make it with my staff or I can have them come down and make it with me. Because part of their lives was cooking. It's such a huge family event. It's a huge social event, and we want to continue that tradition. We want to make sure that the residents feel like this is their home, and they can do whatever they want with the food. If they want to, try a meatloaf recipe, we'll try the meatloaf recipe. We'll give it a shot. And I definitely encourage that. I think it's not only great for the residents and the families to see their name in lights on the menu, but it's fun for us, and it gives us a little, it gives us a challenge to see if we can make it just like Mom used to make. So it's fun, and I think it makes it feel like home.
That's great. And you mentioned your chefs.
Yes.
So it's not just you.
It's not just me. No.
You've got a full team.
I got a great team. All trained professionals, from the dishwasher to the wait staff to the cooks. Everybody is there for the right reason, and that's so important when you're working in a community like we have. It can't just be punch the clock, do your job, and punch out. We have to have people that care about the elderly. They all realize that what my mission is to make these people that live here feel like they're at home, that they feel like they're taken care of, that they feel that their families feel like they're taken care of. So anybody in my kitchen, that's the first that has to happen. And I know that that's happening with my crew, and that's great. And it makes the food taste better. It makes everybody feel like they're part of something bigger than working in just working in a kitchen. We're doing things that are helping people enhance their lives. Not only the residents' lives, but the family members' lives. Family members can come in, have their family move in, and feel comfortable knowing that they're going to get well fed, they're going to be taken care of, they're going to stay active, they're going to stay engaged, and we're going to be doing that 365 days a year. So I definitely give a lot of credit to my crew. They do an amazing job, and I'll sneak around the corner and watch one of my wait staff engage with some of the residents. And this person might have been someone that this could be her first job, his or her first job, and to see them laughing with the resident, to have 3 generations in between them, it's a really great feeling. And to know that there's care out there, it warms my heart. It makes me know that I'm in the right job for what I'm doing. So
I think one of the important things too is we talk so much about people who have a memory impairment, but in doing that, a lot of times they don't have the ability to say, this is what I want, or this, yes, I do want the steak over the chicken, or something. So I thought maybe you could just talk a little bit about how you show plated food to our residents who have memory impairment.
Right. We use, first off, we serve the same food to anybody in our memory impairment unit. We want to make sure that they're getting the same exact food that we're giving to our residents in the traditional side. So what we do is we serve the food for the memory impairment group on yellow plates, bright yellow plates. And what yellow does is it encourages concentration so they can focus on the food. When they see the food, we bring the food down and we have it on show plates. So we have the chicken entree or the steak entree if it's that that evening or daytime, and we actually bring it to the resident. We show, would you like the chicken or the steak? And we can describe it as much as we want. There are some residents that might not understand what we're saying, but at least they're getting that visual. The yellow plate is really bringing that food forward. They're seeing the steam, they're seeing that they're getting the smells in, and that really can maybe trigger something that says, oh yeah, I remember I like chicken, or I remember I like steak. And we can have fun with it. I'll go down there, we'll sing, we'll dance, I'll ask how everybody's doing, and it's a great environment. And I was down there the other day, and we had a resident who doesn't do a lot of speaking, and I was cooking breakfast, and I don't usually do the breakfast shift on this particular day, and we were doing a French toast special. So I brought down the French toast, and I gave her 2 slices of French toast, and I was down there talking with everybody, and she piped up out of nowhere and loved the French toast, and she wanted 2 pieces of French toast instead of the 2. So she wanted 4 pieces of French toast instead of the 2 that I gave her. And the care staff that was on looked at me and was just amazed that this woman was actually, making this conversation happen, because she hadn't spoken in that kind of conversation form in such a long time. So there really are things that can trigger, the memory, and that can, even though it might have been like her kind of being like, get me some more food, it still was something that brought it out. And it's really nice moments like that you get to see that we're doing some really, really good work down there. So yeah, the food is such an important piece. And, we do barbecues every Thursday, and we get the residents outside, and we get the smell of the grill going, and we just laugh. And you can see the residents, even with the memory impairment, you hand them a big slice of watermelon, and you can just see the age come off, and you just see them as little kids again, and just enjoying that big slice of watermelon, having a hot dog, having a hamburger. And it's a great feeling down there, and everybody's having a good time. So food is so important, such a big piece to people's memory. Mm-hmm. So we want to really encourage the great quality food, and the great service as well.
That's great. And I know, as far as what I see typically is when people move in, or they're thinking about moving in, one of the things they struggle with, of course, is preparing the meals or having the meals. Mm-hmm. But to see them flourish, when I see people that go into the dining room and they're there a week now, they're there mm-hmm. 2 weeks, all of a sudden the difference in them, because I think you hit on the most social part, honestly.
Right.
I think that is the most important part. They're now sitting with other people, they're talking. You may not realize you just had your second cup of coffee because the waitress came by with that. Right. And the difference that we see in people in quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how many times I've had family members in the beginning of when a resident moves in say, oh, you'll never get her down for this, or she'll never come to bingo, or she'll never want to be a part of this, or she'll never eat this kind of food. And 2 weeks later, she's the belle of the ball, or so, and she's, dancing at the dance, with the dance instructor, or she's singing, or she's having, these, new vegetable entrees that we're trying out. And the family member just looks at me, what did you do? And it's just like, they're just living, right. And they're not sitting in their house by themselves all day long, or they're engaged, they're remembering, they're having these moments that just bring people together. And that is what's so great about these communities. And it's that the engagement is just keeping people occupied, but with choice. No one is forced to come play bingo. Not that we have a lot of bingo, but no one's forced to do, the crosswords, or no one's forced to come down and make sure that you're eating this kind of food all the time. It's choice, and just having that availability is such a huge piece. People want to live. They want to feel free to live, and that's what we do.
Now, how do you deal with the objections of, I'm a meat and potato girl?
Oh,
you must get that.
It's great. I say, well, this is meat and potatoes. It might not be the meat and potatoes that you've had before. But we always have those options available. You can always get a burger if you want to. We have meatloaf on the menu. I'll never be able to take meatloaf. We have tomato soup, just like you used to have when you were a little kid. There's grilled cheeses. So just knowing that those options are available, that helps with us saying, well, you can always have the meatloaf, but why don't you try this, Tuscan cod today? That might be something that you might like. And what's nice is that we do a pre-meal meeting before every service. So I'll talk to my wait staff. We'll go over each ingredient. We'll go over allergies. We'll go over things that so-and-so might like. We'll say, oh, we have, this person's going to be sitting alone because these two people are going to be going. So why don't we see if they can be sitting at a table together, and just encourage that interaction. But when we go over the menu items, when we go over what's in each thing, when we give we empower the wait staff to know that this is what's in each entree, it gives them the ability to discuss the food with the residents. So it's not just saying chicken or fish. It's saying, this is our Tuscan cod made with tomatoes, red wine, fresh garlic, or this is our meatloaf that we used Millie's recipe, and it has oatmeal instead of breadcrumb. And I think you'd really like this. You loved the meatloaf last time. Give it a try. Or you tried the meatloaf last time. Why don't you try the cod? That way, it kind of gives that a little more professionalism to what we're doing, and it also gives the residents a little more information so they can make that choice again. It's fun.
I love that it's a whole experience.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
just a meal. I like
Absolutely.
that it's not I'm in and out in 10 minutes and ate a quick sandwich and some milk. That
Right.
It's really, it's an hour. It's
Definitely.
a dining experience.
We
and I
want it
think
to
that's
feel
huge.
just like you're walking into a restaurant. And if you come into our dining room at any time of the day, you'll see how beautiful our dining room is. It looks like like you're in a fancy hotel, and it's a nice feeling.
That's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming out, and I know you always tell people to call and certainly
Please come
schedule
on
a lunch.
in. Listen, come on in.
So I appreciate you today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
my pleasure, Stacey. Thanks. And yeah, please do come to the residents of Pearl Street. As I'd say we'll put our food up to the test against any restaurant in town. And I maybe shouldn't have said that because maybe someone will challenge us to something. But anyway, thanks for having me. This is
Thank
great.
you.